I mean, sometimes games like this happen. They've happened twice before in the 102-year history of the National Football League. Louis Riddick, I mean, what do we? It's very difficult to know what to say coming out of something like that. What are the first words out of your mouth this morning?
I think that right there was a real live, in-your-face display of what it looks like when players lose their competitive spirit and when they literally shut it down and they don't lock in and they're just scoreboard watching and wondering, when the hell is this game over? When can we get on the bus? When can I pick up my box lunch and get on the plane and go home? That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like when they are no longer believing what you're telling them, that they're no longer playing with the kind of like self-pride, with the kind of self-respect that is really supposed to be, something that professionals put on display, regardless of what the circumstances are. And it was really surreal kind of sitting there watching it, because there are some fantastic players on this football team, particularly on the defensive side of the football. There are some fantastic players at every level of that defense. And you just kind of sat there and you watched them. I'm trying to put myself back in their shoes, because I've been a part of situations in teams where the season kind of got out of hand and you kind of knew that there was change on the horizon, once the season was over. And I tried to take myself back to what that mindset is like. And I'm not going to say it's not that it's easy. It isn't easy when you know that somehow, some way that there was going to be change and that you're not any longer buying into the program and buying into what is being told to you. And I could see that in the body language, in particular, like on the offensive side of the ball as well. The offensive lineman kind of milling around after every play. Running back gets knocked down, quarterback gets knocked down, and the linemen are just kind of walking back to the huddle yeah, what's the next play? Yeah, when are we going to go ahead and punt? Yeah, when can I just get off the field here? And when you get to that point, look, I understand there may not be precedent for this organization and for this ownership group as far as firing coaches in the middle of the season, but Brandon Staley has lost this football team. That's just a fact. I don't care what he says, and I respect him, and I like Brandon, and I know him personally. But he's lost this team. It's time to turn the page and get a jump start on who's going to lead this team next.
I think it's a reasonable way to put it. I don't know Brandon Staley. This is not a criticism of him as a human being.
Right.
There is just zero question that he has lost this team, that they have underachieved. This was an all-in season. I mean, the worst news for the Chargers is it's about to get much, much worse. They put everything into winning it right now. Mike T, you've been a general manager in two different situations. Is there benefit to firing him today rather than waiting until January 8th?
Absolutely, and I agree with Lewis. He's a good person. We're talking about man's job, but it's over, and that's clear. I've been in this situation. We let Joe Philbin go on a bye week, put Dan Campbell in, and the rest was history in terms of we knew we had a coach. I think because of this mini bye, you have to do it today. And the only name that you look at would be Kellen Moore to say, can it get better? But you have to take advantage of the bye week.
They have three big games coming up, to the extent that the last three games on their schedule are all against teams that have a lot to play for. They play the Bills, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. So it's not going to get easier for the rest of the way out. People will perceive this job, Dan, because of the presence of Justin Herbert, as a very attractive one. And there is one name that is going to start getting thrown out, maybe has already been starting to get thrown out.
We're assuming a number of things right now with 4 weeks left in the season, but assuming that job comes open with the Chargers, whether it's this week or after the season, and assuming New England moves on from Bill Belichick, I think there's going to be a lot of people that connect those two situations, because Justin Herbert looks like a ready-made quarterback you can win with, and the roster is going to need work. They're going to make some tough decisions here in the offseason because of some of their contracts and some of their cap issues. So it might be a bigger rebuild than people assume, but I think the opportunity to coach Justin Herbert will be a very popular one. I think that'll make this a very attractive job to a lot of people. And if, as we believe is more and more likely to happen, the Patriots decide to make a change, and if Bill Belichick in that case wants to continue coaching, I would not be surprised to see that connection.
Very quickly, as a man who has saunaed with Bill in the past, is that a fit that you could see?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that fits with that organizational structure. I think the ideal fit is Jim Harbaugh. Greeny, when you go back to the University of San Diego, Stanford, San Francisco, and now Michigan, he has maximized the quarterback. And if I am the Spanos family it is Jim Harbaugh and then everyone else.
And I can tell you, he loves Justin Herbert. Jim Harbaugh loves Justin Herbert. I've told the story on the air many times. Like everyone loves the potential of Justin Herbert. So because of him alone, that becomes an attractive opening one way or another. That was an embarrassing way to open what should be a very good weekend in the NFL. The best game of the weekend will come in the late afternoon slot on Sunday, and that will be Dak and the Cowboys shuffling off to Buffalo to take on Josh Allen and the Bills. The Cowboys riding a 5-game win streak, looking for a signature road win. They've been a very different team home road this year. Meanwhile, Allen and the Bills desperately need to win. They may need to win out to get into the playoffs. So this game means everything to both sides. So Dak and Josh Allen have both put up huge numbers this season. Actually, somewhat similar if you look at them. They're both top 5 in QBR under pressure, outside the pocket, third down, fourth quarters of games. They're the only 2 quarterbacks in the NFL to rank top 5 in all 4 of these areas. So this is a showdown that seems to have absolutely everything you could want. So, Louis Riddick, let me start again with you. When we get in here on Monday morning and we're doing the show, what will we say was the reason that the team that won the game won the game?
I'll give you 2 reasons. One, it's going to be turnover differential. 5 of Buffalo's 6 losses can be attributed to points scored off of turnovers by the opponent, which directly led to Buffalo losing the football game. So turnover differential for Buffalo has to be something that is prioritized. Make no mistake about it. You can make whatever excuse you want, and we can go ahead and go through interception by interception for Josh Allen in particular, and understand and kind of like get to the bottom of the story of what is behind each one of those interceptions. But the fact of the matter remains, they better win the turnover differential. Number 2, they better win on first down and not get behind the sticks against this hellacious pass rush that Dallas poses to its opponents. And that means this. That means James Cook has to be a feature part of this offense. And he has been under new OC Joe Brady. Over the past 3 games, he has been one of those guys who, in terms of total yardage gained from scrimmage, has been an absolute difference maker, both running the football and catching it out of the backfield. And I think that is something that could really be a problem for the Dallas Cowboys defense on the second level where James Cook does his work. So I think those would be the 2 things. 1, turnover differential. 2, when we're talking about Buffalo, because I'm picking Dallas to win this football game, so I'm talking about it from Buffalo's perspective, James Cook has to be the difference. Josh Allen can have his signature moment. He's going to do his thing. But this game is about James Cook, not about Josh Allen.
Actually, Cindy, let's put the picks on the screen because everyone but me is picking the Cowboys to win this weekend. I'm not losing my membership card in the Bills Mafia. I'll tell you right now, they adopted me last week. These are fun people to have on your side. I'm not going to lie to you. And they'll fight your battles for you online without your help. You, however, you took it a step and a half further in our meeting this morning.
Dallas will not punt. Because of the injuries that Buffalo has.
Not punt!
Buffalo, because of their injuries, Greeny, if they can't get pressure, their opposing offenses complete 75% of their passes. Dak Prescott will complete 82%. They're going to score 40 points, and they will go up and down the field against Buffalo. You know why? They have the great Tyron Smith at left tackle, and the difference between Kansas City and Dallas right now is the offensive lines, and that's why Kansas City wasn't a great matchup against Buffalo, and that's why Dallas is.
Talk to me here, Graziano.
I think not punting is interesting. I mean, they are in field goal range as soon as they cross the 50. That's right? I mean, like, he's as good as anybody. But look, I think if you look at these 2 teams right now, Dallas's offense is operating very smoothly, very efficiently. Everything looks easy for them on offense right now. It does not look the same in Buffalo, right? Buffalo is a wide receiver offsides penalty away from losing last week's game, right? So like they're not necessarily clicking to the extent that Dallas is. It is a road game for the Cowboys, and they're not the same team on the road. It is going to be pouring rain there, from what I understand, according to the forecast on Sunday. So there are things that could ugly it up and make it a more challenging game for Dallas in terms of, their ability to look as good as they've been looking. But based on the way they're playing, based on how healthy they are, based on their personnel and the way their coaching is right now, I favor them in this game just because I think they're the superior team. And Buffalo, they have those holes on defense, right? I mean, the key players, Tre'Davious White, Matt Milano, not there, out due to injuries. So Buffalo's the more desperate team. But Dallas is still trying to win a division here, so it's not like they're going to let down off of the Philly game.
Agree to Graz's point. That's what I'm saying. Buffalo has to generate pressure to cover up for those deficiencies.
I actually don't. I think that both teams are desperate. The Bills are desperate to get into the playoffs. If the Cowboys want to win that division, though, they have to win these games. The Eagles are going to have an easier time. Give me a final word, Lewis. Weather could be a bit of a factor. We're talking about rain. We'll see if that matters. Final thought, Lewis.
Yeah, this has to be Dallas' signature moment as far as the regular season is concerned. This has to be the game that people point to and then project forward and say, if they can play like that on the road, up there in Buffalo, hostile environment, adverse weather conditions, then I believe that once the postseason rolls around, this team can go anywhere and will rise to the occasion now that the postseason is here. This is that moment for this football team, I believe, and I do believe they will rise to the occasion.
We're not rolling like we have been in the past, man. And I know there's a lot of media pointing fingers at some of the skill players that we have. I say that, and excuse my language. We usually cuss in lighthearted ways, but this is I felt like you guys had to feel that. Whoever's talking on the skill players in our offense right now.
So we feel it. Yes.
No, obviously he's feeling it.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's ridiculous. But it's a pretty bad look for the defending Super Bowl champions to open the week complaining about the officials and close it complaining about the media. I think they have some problems in their own building that are real. They lead the league in dropped passes. Saying that is not a criticism. It is a fact, and it is hurting their chances to win. I don't think we're at all wrong in saying that. And if Travis Kelce wants to try and rally his teammates around something like blame the media, or if Patrick Mahomes wants to rally his teammates around something like blame the officials, good. I hope it works for them, because I don't really care what they think. We're not saying anything here that isn't true.
It's a well-made point. They're mad at the officials, and the officials got the call right.
They did.
They're mad at the media for criticizing the receivers who are objectively playing badly, so we're right. So I think that's a really well-made point. I'm glad you made it. Go.
Yeah, I disagree with Graz. I agree with Travis Kelce. It's not their skill players. It's their offensive tackles. They have enough weapons to score enough points. But you go back 2 years ago, Greeny, when they got waxed in the Super Bowl by Tampa Bay, it was an overwhelming defensive front seven of Tampa Bay that really corralled Patrick Mahomes. Their answer was the right one. They fixed the offensive line. Their two tackles have 25 penalties between the two of them. That's what's going to send them home, not their skill players.
Lewis, let me get you in. Let me get Louis Riddick in here now. Canty, I can see, is chomping at the bit. But a phrase that Mike Tannenbaum uses a lot that I use is, at this time of year, the answers have to be in the building. Are the answers for the Chiefs' problems in their building?
No, they're not. Not to what, not up to the standard that this team is accustomed to. Not if they're going to want to win the Super Bowl. I just don't think they have good enough players on the perimeter. And I love Travis Kelce and I love Brett Veach. Everyone knows I'm close to those guys. So, but I mean, look, they're just not good enough. Andy Reid used to say to us all the time when we were in Philadelphia, the number one job requirement of a pass catcher is really in the title. Catch the pass. And if you can't do that, that's a bit of a problem. Okay, and there's just no way around that. I understand what Travis is trying to do. We understand why Patrick is frustrated. I think his frustrations go back really to the Green Bay game when Marquez Valdez-Scantling was obviously interfered with. But no, I think on the perimeter, their explosive play rate, which was number one in 2022, has dipped down to firmly in the bottom half of the NFL. I think right now they're at number 21. They're like right above or below the New York Giants. They're just not good enough at being able to create those kind of plays that can flip the game around. And I will disagree a little bit with Mike as far as the offensive line is concerned, because really, I mean, when you're looking at it objectively, this offensive line right now is number one in pass block win rate. So they're able to protect Patrick long enough to where he can get the ball where it needs to be gotten to. They just aren't catching it, or the receivers aren't where he expects them to be. And when you have that kind of inconsistency, yeah, it's cool to go ahead and make the playoffs, maybe win the division, maybe go ahead and win a playoff game, but that's not the standard in Kansas City. The standard there is going to Super Bowls and hosting Lombardis, and they don't have the answers in their building for that. I just don't see it, and that takes a lot for me to say considering who they have at quarterback and who their head coach is, but I just don't think that they're equipped to go ahead and deal with the power structure that exists right now in the AFC.
And look, we know we have a problem when we're sitting here, if everyone's debating which is the bigger problem that we have on our offense right now. So it all adds up to their offense isn't what it usually is, and they have the best player in the world in the middle of it. So I'll ask you this question, because there are a lot of teams in the AFC that have a lot of question marks. We've got a ton of quarterback injuries. No one looks great in that conference necessarily. So if not literally, then figuratively, the road to the Super Bowl for the last almost decade now has gone through Kansas City in the AFC.
Yeah.
Does it still?
No, it doesn't. And here's the problem with all of the parity in the AFC and there being only one team that has double-digit wins through week 14, it exacerbates the failure that you've seen from the general manager and the head coach in terms of not replenishing the receiving ranks and not necessarily getting the productivity with guys that you use a lot of draft capital on in order to acquire. And looking at where they're at right now, it is on the board that the Kansas City Chiefs don't win their division. Like they're only a game in front of the Denver Broncos right now.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, to push back on what Mike T said, it wasn't Jawan Taylor that lined up off sides in that game against
No, he was 3 yards in the backfield, actually.
But he wasn't. What's the rest?
the opposite.
No. He wasn't the one that was flagged. It was Kadarius Toney that caused.
He should have been, though.
Hold on, let me finish. And then you had the game against the Philadelphia Eagles where MVS dropped the pass. It wasn't the offensive tackle that dropped the pass. It was the wide receivers. So again, we have instances in games, in consequential moments, that cost this team wins. I don't know how you can look at the problems on the offensive side of the ball and not say that the biggest ones are in that receiving core.